Creatine. A recent meta-analysis, systematic review. You guys can find it. Greg Nuckols even wrote an article about it. Turns out the way that we measure the gain in muscle mass, as I've been telling you for years, isn't very accurate because we calculate it by this lean body mass thing. And the trouble with that is that it includes water. We all know that water increases with creatine. Creatine causes you to retain water in the muscle. That's actually why it's beneficial for strength. No different than adding sodium. Wait, hydration matters? Yes, hydration matters. Radical concept. So there's this weird thing where hydration makes a difference. So if you're dehydrated, your performance will go down, and if you're well hydrated, your performance will go up. And when we calculate lean body mass, if you have a lot of glycogen, you have a lot of water stored in the muscle. And if you have creatine, you have a lot of water stored in the muscle, which is lean body mass because it's not fat mass. So the way we calculate these things is we just basically figure out how much fat mass do you have, subtract that from your total body weight, and call it lean body mass. That doesn't actually tell you how many grams of protein, like muscle, that you have. It just tells you what's not fat. So it includes bone. It includes water. So when we calculate this and we tell people, oh, look, creatine made you gain all this muscle, it's actually, a lot of it's just water. And so as this study points out, the effect size is actually like 0.11, which is too small. It basically means that creatine does very, very little, if anything. And so you might want to consider that. Maybe Stan Efferding is right. Maybe it's about sodium. Sodium is what really matters. And actually, sodium is interesting. Maybe do a separate video on that. Sodium even acts like an androgen in some ways. Oh, that's cooler than creatine. So creatine makes you gain water, which is why your lean mass goes up. And of course, creatine causes you to retain water, which is why your performance improves. But you could do the same thing with sodium. All right. Where does this leave us, right? I'm not telling you creatine's bad. Creatine's not bad at all. Creatine's good for all kinds of stuff. But creatine's in your food, so you don't need to supplement with it. And I know, the other day I saw a nutritionist, of all things, maybe she's even an RD, I have no idea, I'd have to double check, commenting that it would be impossible for people to get enough creatine from their diet, because that would mean that you have to eat at least 1 kilo of meat per day. 1 kilo of meat per day, so 2.2 pounds. Not to be a dick, but to go ahead and be a dick. Is there a single grown man out there who lifts weights and is trying to get big and strong who doesn't eat at least 2 pounds of meat a day? Let's just say you eat 8 ounces of meat per meal. And you're not crazy, so you're not doing 8 meals a day, but maybe you're doing 5 or 6 meals a day. 5 or 6 meals a day would put you past the 2 pounds of meat, wouldn't it? Oh, gosh. Yes, it does. You'd have 2.5 pounds at 5 meals, and you would have, 3 pounds of meat at 6 meals a day. So at that point, you have more than enough creatine. And the thing of it is that there's a saturation point. And this is a difficult thing to understand here, but once you are 100% saturated, you're 100% saturated. I know, 110% effort, guys. 110% effort. But the reality is that you can't saturate things beyond 100%. 100% is 100%. There is no 101%. There is no 105%. 110% effort, though, folks. So you mean to tell me that taking additional creatine beyond what my body can assimilate into its tissues doesn't have any additional benefit? That's correct. Which is why like 1/3 of people in these studies are non-responders. They don't respond to the creatine at all. That's interesting. Why would that be? Oh, I bet they eat meat. A radical concept. You mean if you eat meat, you don't have to take a supplement? Yes. Hey, here's another crazy one. Fish oil? Guess what? You can just eat fish. I know. That's crazy. You guys have heard me say it on podcasts and interviews before. I'm like, yeah, you should just have sardines. Like a couple times a week, have some sardines. There's your fish oil. You don't have to go buy fish oil. You already know, like, half the fish oil supplements on the market are rancid. They're oxidized and rancid. So why not just go eat fish? Right? Yeah. And we know that supplements aren't always dosed appropriately either. So when you take 5 grams of creatine, how do you know it's actually 5 grams of creatine? Not saying that there's any companies out there that do this, but, they put stuff on the label sometimes. And, it turns out that there isn't that much of whatever they claim is on the label. There was a certain individual who's very popular. I'm certainly not referring to the person that you think that I'm referring to, who sells a terkesterone product, terkesterone. And it turned out that his terkesterone product didn't have terkesterone in it. It's kind of funny, though. He didn't get sued, but the Liver King is getting sued because apparently of fraudulent claims or something. I feel like selling a product that doesn't actually contain the product that's on the label is fraudulent, but far be it from me to make make any sense of any of this. Actually, none of this makes any fucking sense. So the point being, though, gosh, it would be impossible for people to eat 1 kilo of meat a day. I would love to have you over to my house sometime. I eat a minimum of 3 pounds of meat a day, every day, minimum. Sometimes I eat 5 pounds of meat. In fact, actually, when I was doing my steak thing for a while there, I was eating a minimum of 5 pounds of meat, sometimes 6 pounds. So 5 or 6 pounds of beef. Yeah, that's a lot of food. This ain't the get small party. Quote me. This ain't the get small party. Eat up some goddamn food. Well, I want to get big and jacked, but don't want to eat. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'll never understand that. Guys tell me they want to gain 20 pounds of muscle, but they don't want the weight on the scale to go up. Where do you plan on that meat going? You're going to put this meat onto your body. Yes, muscle, meat. And somehow you're going to weigh the same on the scale, but you'll be 20 pounds bigger. That's some fun math there. That's the kind of math the government does whenever they try to figure out your taxes. That's a terrible joke. Half of you just were offended because you think it's a political comment, and I'm over here just making fun of the fact that if you can read the tax code, I don't care what political party you belong to, it doesn't make any goddamn sense. You know how long that thing is? It doesn't make sense. I don't even know how to do taxes. I'm like, TurboTax it is. Tell me you don't do the same. Yeah, I'm not going to do my taxes by hand. That's crazy. That's why they invented TurboTax. Anyways, point being, okay, creatine. Do you need it? No, you don't need it. You can eat meat. And additionally, oh my gosh, it turns out that creatine is not as effective as we once said it was. But I'm going to give out a little shout out to Greg actually here, because there was at one point in time where Greg was pointing out that creatine adds 10% increase. That's what he was claiming at one point in time, and he said that steroids are only 5%. So steroids only add 5%, but creatine adds 10%. And now Greg appears to have at least walked that back to admit the fact that perhaps creatine is not as effective as we once thought it was. That's Greg, if you're out there watching this, I know you're not, fist bump. Cool, man. I appreciate you. I do. This isn't a joke. This isn't sarcasm. I genuinely appreciate you updating your stance. That's cool, man. Nobody ever does that. It's this weird thing. We have this society where people never want to admit that, oh gosh, maybe I was a little wrong about this, or I overestimated something. No one ever wants to be wrong. So I think that's cool. Mind you, Greg wrote an article telling you don't close the door on creatine yet, so, okay. But at least he admitted that, maybe it isn't as effective as we once thought it was. That's cool. You won't hear me criticize you for that. I think that's awesome. So I'm not going to sit here and make fun of you. That's awesome that people, once in a while, it's rare, speak up and say, maybe I was wrong about this. Anyways, point being, turns out a lot of people were wrong about creatine. Everyone was talking about creatine as if it's the next coming of, I don't know, some type of panacea. I can't think of a panacea. It's the next penicillin for your muscles. How about that? Creatine is this great thing. Everyone needs to be on it, take creatine and sleep 8 hours. It's ridiculous. It'll cure everything. But that's where we're at. So it turns out creatine is not nearly as effective as it was once thought to be. And number two, if someone tells you you need to supplement with creatine because you can't get it from food, that person probably has an eating disorder. Just being quite honest. Like, that's blunt. That's not me making fun of them. That's not being sarcastic. That's not being cynical. That's not being facetious or whatever. I mean, like, legitimately, if someone's telling you that you can't eat 2 pounds of meat a day, like, I would question that person. That's like these IIFYM people that tell me, I do IIFYM, I can't eat a steak. And I'm like, why not? And they're like, it doesn't fit my macros. I'm like, what's the whole point of IIFYM if you can't put a steak into your diet? I remember this one guy, he was very popular. He's actually still popular and still very successful as an IIFYM guy. And he tells me he can't eat eggs. I'm like, why can't you eat eggs? And he's like, it doesn't fit my macros. And I'm like, you mean to tell me that you don't have enough grams of fat for one egg? My heart actually goes out to these people. I sound like I'm making fun of them. You probably think I'm making fun of them. I'm trying to point out to you, if someone says something like that to you, like, that's a red flag that that person has an eating disorder. That person needs help. So if someone tells you it's not possible to eat 2 pounds of meat in a day, you're probably over-restricting. Remember, folks, final thought, and then we're going to wrap this video up. REDS, you know, the whole relative energy deficiency in sport, you need at least 45 calories per kilo of body weight. So if you're eating less than that, you are under eating. Okay, so for those of you who weigh 100 kilos, you're 220 pounds, take that 100 kilos and multiply it by 45, and you have 4,500 calories that you need. If you're eating less than that, then you are under eating. You have relative energy deficiency. And then you're going to tell me, oh, I have low T. It's like, motherfucker, you are 100 kilos and you eat 2,200 calories a day. You are under eating. That's why you have low T. I'm not even 100 kilos and I eat over 4,000 calories. I'm 165 pounds. 165 pounds eating at least 4,200 calories minimum. I only have minimums. I don't have maximums. I never limit myself. If I'm hungry, I eat more. Minimum 4,200 calories a day. You're 100 kilos eating 2,000 calories a day and you wonder why you have low T. Yeah, and it's because we have people out there telling you it's not possible to eat 2 pounds of meat in a day. So we need to get rid of those people because those people are giving out bad advice. It is bad advice to encourage people to keep restricting, especially if you're an athlete. Yes, if you sit on the couch all day, then yes, you need to restrict. But if you are an athlete and you are training hard, you need to put something back into the system. Your body needs to recover. Like, having an energy deficiency while creating an even greater energy deficit because you're training hard, you're just burying yourself. You know, there's hormesis is one thing. Then there's a point where you're just creating stress on the body and you're just trashing yourself. Anyways, creatine's not going to cure that. All right, there you guys have it. So, eat more meat.